I'm someone from India who had some bad luck. I used to work as a master mariner, which meant I work on ships and would be away from home for 3 months at a time. But then the pandemic happened and things got worse. Flights were stopped and no country would let us go back home. So I stayed away even longer. I didn't know that my wife, whom I have been married to for 16 years and knew since we were kids, would like another guy. She even slept with him 3 times before I found out and she admitted it. It's a long story, but I have no one to talk to about it. I haven't told my friends or family because it's really embarrassing. And to be honest, people in India can be very critical. I am worried about what rumors might spread if the news gets out. When the pandemic restriction became a bit less strict, I went back home in July 2020 and stayed with my family until December 2020. Then I had to go back to work. Those days went by quickly and we're happy. I came back home in March 2021 and things were mostly normal for the first few weeks. But I started feeling strange about a guy my wife knew and often saw during our morning walk. The way he greeted us made me uncomfortable, and my wife would blush when we saw him. I made a mental note as I suspect my wife had a crush on him. As time went on, I noticed my wife was keeping secrets. She didn't tell me about some phone calls she got, even though I saw her talking on the phone. Then one day, while we were driving home from lunch, her phone rang and the guy's name appeared on the caller ID. I thought it might be the man, so I purposely asked her who was calling to see how she responded. Just like I thought, she tried to trick me and said it was a fake call. Why would she not tell the truth? I started feeling really concerned and worried. I wanted to find out, so I began searching for a chance to look at her phone. One day, when she was in the shower, I saw an opportunity and went through her phone. We usually share our device because we were married. While I was looking, I noticed that the contact detail of the other man had been removed. This made me even more suspicious. To gather more information, I decided to turn on call recording on her phone. I started checking her phone regularly, hoping to find any call that seemed strange. The important day arrived, August 2nd, 2021. I came back home after doing some everyday task and noticed my wife quickly ending a phone call. Later that same day, when I had an opportunity, I looked at her phone. There was a call from a number I didn't recognize, and it lasted for 29 minutes. I examined the number, but it didn't have a name attached to it. Since I didn't recognize the number, I wrote it down to remember. I listened to the call recording and was extremely surprised and disgusted by what I heard. It was a conversation that no man would ever want to hear. He was talking to her in a disrespectful and inappropriate way, as if she was someone who sells herself for money. This upset me a lot. I quickly went into the kitchen where she was and confronted her about the possibility of having a relationship with the man. She seemed surprised by my accusation before she denied any kind of romantic or emotional involvement with him. I told her that I overheard their conversation when they were talking inappropriately. She responded by saying, "He's just a friend who talks that way." This explanation was extremely unlikely, especially considering that throughout our life together, she had always lectured me about using respectful language and staying faithful. She insisted and promised that there was nothing romantic happening between them. I didn't want to reveal that I had been recording her calls, as it could make the situation worse. I chose to be patient and wait for more proof. Then came the second significant day, August 4th, 2021. I collected 4 more call recordings that strongly supported my suspicions. These recordings were more than sufficient to demonstrate that she had been involved in a physical relationship with the other man. This time, I confronted her with the recordings and she felt trapped. She had no other option but to admit to what had been happening. Divorce isn't something that happens a lot in my country, and I was facing a tough decision because we had an 11-year-old son. Adding to the complexity, my job used to involve long periods of travel, and I couldn't shake off the thought that she might be involved with someone else when I was away. Before this incident, she had never given me any reason to doubt her. She admitted to everything and explained that she had felt very strongly attracted to this other guy. She mentioned that he provided her with support during the pandemic, especially when I was away at sea due to the uncertain circumstances we were facing, which led to us being separated for a long time. I was extremely angry because when I was out at sea, Concerned about my wife and son, she was involved with another man. She had been intimate with him. What made it worse was that this happened not just once, but even while I was working on the ship. The third instance occurred 4 months after I came back home. I found out that it happened on July 21st, 2021. She told me that this was the last time, as she had intended to put an end to it. However, she was afraid that the other man might reveal everything to me. This explanation didn't seem logical though, because the other man also had a wife and was a lawyer, so he had his own reputation to worry about. This happened just 2 days after my birthday. It turned out that the planning for their actions had taken place on my birthday while I was at work. She admitted that he had rented a hotel room and they were together there. Hearing this shattered me, and I felt profound pain. She pleaded with me to pardon her for what she had done. Now, I really want to trust her, but my faith is shaking. She deleted the voice recording I had set up on her phone, but I had already saved it in different locations to use it as my evidence. The discussion she had with the other man didn't show any intention of ending the affair, which made me realize she was not being honest with me. I couldn't let her sleep in our bed that night, and she kept begging me to make things right between us. The conversations they had were stuck in my mind, and I couldn't help but bring up those discussions whenever she tried to downplay the situation. My wife, who had an affair, says she wants us to go back to how things were quickly. She thinks that if I keep dwelling on the past, I will make things harder. I felt lost because her affair had made me really embarrassed. I couldn't find anyone to talk to and share my feelings with, and I'm feeling stuck without knowing what to do. The only option I'm left with seems to be thinking about divorce. I reached out to a therapist, but our conversation was about 15 minutes long over the phone, and then he prescribed antidepressants. I haven't started taking the pills. Why should I take medication because my wife couldn't stay faithful? She talked to the other man in front of me, asking for no contact, and repeated it the next day to make her intentions clear. But even that hasn't lessened my feeling of anger and sadness. Sailors like me often feel overlooked in the working class, and now it seems like even our own people aren't giving us the support we need. It's like we're being taken for granted all the time. Just a few things to update or clarify. I have decided to stop working on ships since I returned in March 2021. Instead, I have been looking for a job on land that lets me work from home. This way, I can be with my family more, especially my son. I forced her to make the second call to the other man to clarify things because I felt the first conversation was unclear. At that point, I didn't have complete information about their involvement in ex-war activities. I wanted to make sure there was no confusion in the other man's mind. Right after that, my wife blocked the other man's number, and they haven't made any contact since then. It's been 2 weeks now. I requested a timeline from her, which she provided, although she didn't put it in writing. Whenever I ask her questions, her answers stays the same, but she does get upset and starts crying. She has never put the blame on me for what happened. Actually, since the second important day, D-Day 2, when I got the complete story, she had taken responsibility and acknowledged that it's entirely her fault. She wishes she had talked to a therapist before making those hurtful choices. As far as we both knew, there weren't any issue in our marriage. Yet, here we are, facing this situation. The phone conversations I listened to indicated that the other man was persistently encouraging my wife and trying to make it seem like having a physical relationship outside of marriage is acceptable, as long as they are not neglecting their own family. The other man is married and has 2 children and claimed that his wife isn't interested in being intimate. But that doesn't mean my wife should allow him to be intimate with her. I have not confronted him face to face since then. He doesn't live nearby. I used to come down to the hill for his morning exercise routine. I warned her loudly that if I ever come across him, I would reveal their secret to everyone. That same day, I penned an anonymous letter to the other man's wife, sharing details about their affair. I also attempted to contact her on Facebook because I didn't have her phone number. Having my wife near me was causing emotional turmoil. I was getting very upset with her and even calling her a serial cheater. In response, she argued there was no basis to label her as such. She maintained that what happened was an unfortunate and regrettable mistake that occurred only 3 times. I am struggling to comprehend how she could have been so thoughtless. I am aware that she can be easily swayed by other options, and I have stepped in to help her through that several times before. Unfortunately, I wasn't there this time. I noticed signs of guilt in her behavior when she was at home during the affair, but whenever she talked to him on the phone, it was like she was transformed into a completely different person who seemed to disregard her family entirely. In this instant feeling of limerence or infatuation, so overpowering that it leads people to make such destructive choices, I can't deny that I have thought about confronting the other man multiple times. However, he's a lawyer and it appears he's quite cunning. He likely knows various tactics to involve me in legal issues unnecessarily. It's hard to fathom what could happen in India if you have the right connection and enough money to invest in such matters. Legal cases can drag on for years, and there is no certainty if justice will eventually prevail. Surprisingly, his wife reached out to me on Facebook, and she was heartbroken. She admitted that she had never suspected that he was being unfaithful. She asked me to share the audio recordings I had, but I suggested that we meet in person so I could play them for her. I didn't want to just give her the recordings. We planned to meet one evening at a restaurant outside of town where neither of us was known. When we arrived, I saw his wife face to face for the first time. We shared our stories on how we both experienced betrayal from our spouses, and this brought us closer together. During our meeting, I played the recording to her, and she was deeply hurt by what she heard. When I inquired about her plans, she confessed she wasn't sure what to do. Her financial situation was tough because he was the main earner, and a divorce would have devastating consequences for her. We found comfort in realizing that we had a shared experience, and we left with the intention of meeting again the following week. We exchanged phone numbers and made plans to get together once more. For the first time since discovering my wife's infidelity, I felt a sense of relief. Talking with another person who had also been betrayed felt therapeutic, and we kept texting each other to stay in touch. Her husband was wealthier and well connected than I was, which is significant in this part of the world. His wife wasn't unattractive, so it appeared he was cheating simply because he wanted more than what he already had. Before our planned meeting, we began texting each other frequently and started to develop feelings for each other. So when we finally met up the following week, we realized we had developed a mutual attraction. We met a few more times after that, and during our encounter, I initiated a kiss, and we ended up having sex in my car. After starting this affair, I began to justify the idea of reconciliation with my wife, thinking it would somehow balance things out. However, I continued the relationship with the other man's wife. This went on for around 2 more months until I received a threatening call from her husband, wanting me to stay away from his wife. I immediately called her and asked her how he found out. She explained that they were having an argument where she accused him of cheating. So in retaliation, she revealed our affair to him. She apologized to me for putting me in that situation. My wife eventually found out about our affair and demanded that I ended it right away. Initially, I was frustrated that the other betrayed wife, who had also created this mess by exposing our affair, but then I grew upset with my wife and her affair partner due to their hypocrisy. Despite my wife's plea for me to stop, I chose to disregard her and continued the affair. Her appeal went unanswered by me. I only stopped when the other man got tired of me banging his wife, so he threatened to take legal action against me. He knew how to navigate the legal system and could make my life difficult. That's when I finally decided to put an end to the affair with his wife, as I don't have money to waste in court. At the moment, I'm still dangling reconciliation in my wife's face, and I enjoy the satisfaction that she knew that I'm having an affair with the other man's wife. The other betrayed spouse and I are still in touch, but we have decided to stop sleeping with each other, as her husband have sued me to court and continues to threaten me. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Please hit the thumbs up to continue to support the channel, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get some reaction in the comment section. Thank you and have a wonderful day.